The air in Willow Creek wasn't just cold. It was heavy, thick with the unspoken fears of its isolated inhabitants. Nestled deep within the whispering, ancient woods, the village huddled under perpetually gray skies, as if even the sun was wary of its secrets. Here, Mary lived, a young woman whose beauty was as striking as it was unsettling. Her hair, the color of a raven's wing at midnight, framed a face of ethereal pallor, and her eyes, deep pools of emerald and shadow, seemed to hold ancient, untold stories. Villagers often averted their gaze when she passed, the hushed murmurs trailing her like a chilling mist. Too quiet, some would whisper, clutching their prayer beads. Unnatural, others would add, their eyes darting away from her unnerving stillness. Mary, oblivious or perhaps simply resigned to their fear, spent her days cultivating a small, vibrant garden behind her crumbling cottage, her slender fingers coaxing life from the hard earth. She hummed ancient, mournful melodies her grandmother, a woman equally shrouded in village suspicion, had taught her. These weren't the cheerful ditties of other maidens, but haunting refrains that spoke of lost love and forgotten pacts. Her connection to the surrounding forest was perhaps her most damning trait. She moved through the gnarled trees with an uncanny grace, never disturbing a single leaf, as if the ancient oaks themselves recognized her. Children, venturing too close to the wood's edge, would recount tales of seeing her standing motionless amidst the shadows, her pale face illuminated by slivers of moonlight, conversing with unseen entities. Such tales, distorted and amplified by fear, became fuel for the brewing storm. Old Granny Maeve, the village's self-proclaimed seer, would often cross herself violently whenever Mary's name was uttered, muttering about the mark of the ancient blood and a darkness that mirrors the soul. Mary, however, remained an enigma, her expression often unreadable, her thoughts locked away behind those luminous, unsettling eyes. The villagers, desperate to maintain their fragile peace, attributed every minor misfortune to her unholy presence. A sickly cow, a spoiled harvest, a child's persistent cough. The whispers were growing louder, transforming into a chorus of dread, and Mary, alone in her quiet world, was about to discover the terrifying truth of why she was truly different. Isolation had become Mary's only companion, but even that felt crowded. As the village of Willow Creek tightened its grip on her, the very air in her mother's cottage seemed to thicken with a static charge. Every time a villager spat on her shadow in the market, she would return home to find the milk turned to sour clumps within minutes. When a group of boys threw stones at her windows, the local well, the heart of the village, turned it deep, rust-red by morning. One evening, exhausted by the weight of their hatred, Mary stood before the wash basin. She splashed her face with icy water, but when she looked up, the world didn't ripple. The water in the basin didn't settle like liquid. It hardened into a surface of dark, polished silver. In that reflection, Mary saw herself, yet she looked ancient. Her eyes, usually a soft, frightened gray, burned with a cold, rhythmic light that matched the beating of her heart. She realized then that she wasn't just under a curse, she was the conduit. Her sorrow was the drought, and her anger was the blight. Searching through her mother's old cedar chest, Mary found the remnants of a life she barely remembered. Beneath the moth-eaten shawls lay a small, silver-backed hand mirror, wrapped in black silk. As her fingers brushed the glass, a memory surged forward, the smell of lavender and the soft, melodic voice of her mother. It wasn't a lullaby she had been taught, but a rhythmic binding. Mary began to hum the tune, and the words fell into place like heavy stones. Mirror, mirror, on the wall, catch the soul before the fall. Hide the light and hold the breath, give the life to cheat the death. Blood of mother, blood of child, keep the ancient power wild. As she sang, the shadows in the room began to detach themselves from the furniture. They didn't lunge at her, they bowed. These were the unseen, the guardians of her lineage that Granny Maeve had spent a lifetime trying to ward off with her crosses and salt. Mary realized the mirror wasn't just a tool for vanity. Victoria, the blacksmith's daughter, had found Mary sitting alone on a mossy log, her eyes heavy with the sadness the village had forced upon her. While others crossed the street to avoid Mary, Victoria sat beside her. They became a secret pair, two souls bound by kindness. Victoria would sneak away to help Mary tend her wild garden, their laughter muffled by the rows of lavender and sage. But the world was too small for such a friendship. One afternoon, the blacksmith spotted them together. With a roar of fury, he snatched Victoria away, his heavy boots crushing Mary's flowers. "Stay away from the witch," he bellowed, dragging his daughter away from her cottage. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in bruised purples, Victoria and Mary sat in the tall grass behind the cottage. Victoria turned to her friend, her voice soft and heavy with a question she had carried for weeks. "Mary," she whispered, "why do they hate you? Why do they cross the road when they see you coming? You have the kindest heart of anyone I know." Mary's hands went still in the dirt. She looked up at the moon, which was just beginning to rise. "It's not what I've done, Victoria. It's when I was born." She began to tell the story the village had used to shroud her in darkness since her first breath. "I was born under the red moon, the blood moon. In this village, that is the forbidden time. They say any child born when the moon bleeds is cursed, a vessel for ancient, hungry spirits. They've called me, which since I was a babe in the cradle." Her voice trembled as she shared the tragedies that had reinforced their fear. "When I was only 7, my mother and father went into the woods and never came out. The village said I ate their souls. I lived with my grandmother in the shadows of the trees, but she passed when I was 10. Since then, I have been truly alone, a witch in a village that waits for me to fail." Victoria didn't pull away. Instead, she reached out and took Mary's dirt-stained hand in her own, squeezing it tight. "I don't care about the moon, Mary," Victoria said firmly, her eyes bright with defiance. "And I don't care what my father or Granny Maeve say. You aren't a curse. You're my friend." In that moment, the bond was sealed. Victoria's love was the only shield Mary had against the village's hate. Despite the warnings, Victoria's heart remained with her friend. They met in secret until the day a sudden, violent fever took hold of Victoria. In a panic, Mary carried her friend all the way to the blacksmith's cottage, hoping to save her. But there was no gratitude. As the mother pulled the girl inside, the blacksmith struck Mary, pushing her into the mud and screaming for her to never return. Mary ran home, her tears blurring the forest path. She cried herself into a deep, exhausted sleep, only to wake to a nightmare. Victoria had died, and the village wanted blood. The villagers didn't look for a medical cause. They looked for Mary. At midnight, Granny Maeve led a mob with torches, her iron-belled staff jangling like a funeral dirge. "The witch has stolen the child's spirit," Maeve shrieked. "She keeps the souls in the glass." They trapped Mary inside her cottage and set it ablaze. As the smoke filled her lungs, Mary realized there was no escape. She crawled to her mirror, pressing her palms against the cold surface. She didn't pray to God. She pleaded with the spirit of the mirror to take her soul. In a flash of silver light, her body was swapped into the glass just as the roof collapsed. As the smoke cleared from the ruins of Mary's cottage, the villagers stood in stunned silence around the untouched mirror. Panic began to rise like a second fire, but Granny Maeve stepped forward, her iron bells jangling. "Peace," she cackled, her voice thin and sharp. "The witch is gone, and her power is trapped. I shall take this glass and bind the spirit forever. The blacksmith's daughter is at peace now." The villagers, calmed by her words, watched as she clutched the mirror to her chest and retreated to her lonely hut. But at the stroke of midnight, the silence of the woods was shattered by a blood-curdling scream and the sound of breaking wood. When the villagers burst into Maeve's cottage, they found her twisted and lifeless. Beside her, reflecting the flickering torchlight, sat the mirror, without a single scratch. The blacksmith, blinded by his own loss and refusing to believe in the curse, claimed the mirror. "It was my daughter's friend's only possession," he growled, perhaps feeling a flicker of guilt. He took it home and placed it on his mantle. That night, the same bone-chilling cry echoed from the forge. The villagers found the blacksmith and his wife dead in their bed, their faces frozen in masks of pure terror. The mirror sat on the floor beside them, as if it had moved on its own to watch them die. The village was now gripped by a frenzy of fear. A group of men took the mirror to the center of the square. They built a massive bonfire, tossing the glass into the heart of the flames. They watched for hours, but the glass would not melt. The silver remained bright within the fire. Frantic, they dragged the mirror to the edge of the woods and dug a deep hole, burying it under 6 feet of earth and heavy stones. "It is finished," they whispered. But the following morning, a new horror awaited. 3 siblings in a house across the village were found dead in their nursery. And there, leaning against the foot of their bed, was the mirror, clean, polished, and free of any dirt from the grave. The people finally understood. Mary wasn't just in the mirror. She was the mirror, and she has come for revenge. One by one, the villagers abandoned their homes, leaving the village to be reclaimed by the forest. But the mirror stayed behind, waiting for the next traveler to find it. The terror of Mary's spirit is that she no longer distinguishes between the guilty and the innocent. To her, every hand that touches the mirror is the hand of the blacksmith who pushed her. Every eye that looks into her is the eye of the villagers who watched her burn. The curse remains active because the mirror cannot be broken. Many have tried to smash it, only for the hammer to shatter in their hands or for the glass to remain perfectly smooth. It waits for the curious, the collectors, and the unsuspecting. You might find it in a thrift store or inherit it from a distant relative. You'll hang it on your wall, admiring its silver depth. But when the lights go out and you hear that first soft sob coming from the wall, you will realize too late, Mary has found you.